I didn't want to have any regrets. And so I gave it all every single day with a good attitude and just tried to enjoy every day like it was my last and play like every day was my last. And, looking back, I'm proud of the way I did that.
Welcome to episode 388 of Alberta Dugout Stories, the podcast. I'm Joe McFarland. Growing up on the farm, it can sometimes be tough to find enough time in the day to play baseball during the summer. You have animals or crops to take care of, farmyards to maintain, and there's never an end to the oddball jobs you can find. But when you love it, you find the time. Such was the case with Skyler Stromsmoe. Born and raised on the family farm just outside Etzikom in southeast Alberta, he was willing to do anything to play the game he loved. When he outgrew the local baseball scene, his parents drove him to Bow Island to play, and when his talent shined there, he was offered spots on American Legion teams in Medicine Hat. He was a walk-on at Longview Community College, earning a move to Southern Arkansas University, where he helped the team win its first Gulf South Conference championship in 2006. He then stole 52 bases in 55 attempts in 2007 and was named All-GSE First Team in both seasons. Then he was an undrafted free agent signed by the San Francisco Giants, spending 9 years in their minor league system, including 101 games in AAA. For his pro career, Stromsmoe hit .250 with 12 homers, 123 RBI, and 60 stolen bases in 578 games. The 5'10", 175-pound utility man also earned the opportunity to represent his country in several major international events, including winning a gold at the 2011 Pan Am Games and a bronze at the 2011 World Cup. He was also Canada's second baseman at the 2015 Pan Ams, winning gold again when he scored the winning run in extras to beat the Americans. Stromsmoe is back home on the family farm again, where sports are still a big deal. In between the usual springtime tasks, we had the chance to have a great conversation about the former Medicine Hat Mavericks' journey in the game and the things he learned along the way. Skyler, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You had quite the ride in baseball. So let's start in the beginning. Like when you were a little kid, originally from Etzikom, how did you get into baseball in the first place?
Well, I guess we did have a coach pitch program that I got my dad and a few others set up in Foremost. That's a town about 15 miles away where, I went to school and just kind of developed from there. I started playing as a young kid, and then I guess my dad played a lot of slow pitch growing up, and I was always the bat boy. I just, wanted to be like my dad. Mm-hmm. And I guess kind of my passion developed there and went on to bigger things after that.
Were you a multi-sport kid growing up, or was it all baseball all the time as soon as you got onto the field?
No, multi-sport, absolutely. That's I played hockey, basketball, volleyball, and baseball.
Oh, wow.
So everything, and it wasn't and played them all the way through grade 12 as well. It wasn't, probably when I was in grade 11 or so is when I thought, baseball's probably my ticket, somewhere at the next level. So that's when, I did, a little more training for that, but still played every other sport.
Mm-hmm. Was there a moment in time that you remember where you kind of went, okay, I want to chase this baseball dream a little bit and see how far it can take me?
Well, I kind of realized my being vertically challenged like I am. Like I'm not legitimately, I'm under 5'9". So I thought, basketball, probably not my sport, volleyball, not my sport. And I guess I did stop playing hockey in grade 9. Like I was too small. I thought, you know what, if I'm going to go somewhere, it's going to have to be baseball. And I could run a little bit, steal some bases. And that kind of opened up the doors for me.
Was it weird though, especially at that time, given everyone's talking hockey, maybe football, and here you are chasing a sport that isn't necessarily top of mind in Alberta or in Canada for that matter?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's something I always liked to do. And so, if you like to do something, want to do something, you give it your all and you look at opportunities, to play. And I always wanted to, it was funny. I had some old, an old journal back when I was in grade 1, and it had a Skyler's crystal ball, and it said, what I'm going to do. It said, I'm going to be, get married, have a couple kids, work on the farm, and play baseball. And it was like, man, this was 1991 when I wrote that, and I found it like years after I was playing. I was like, no way. Like it was always something I wanted to do. And I guess, yeah, it just came to fruition after.
And especially being from a small town like you are, you're traveling all over the countryside just to find playing time too. As you're getting older, you're going up to Bow Island, you're going over to Foremost, you're going over to Medicine Hat. I mean, your parents had to have been pretty happy by the time you hit 16 and you're able to drive yourself around, right?
Yeah, no doubt. There's definitely a lot of travel. I mean, my dad did coach me a lot, and so that was nice because he was coming anyways. But yeah, later on, throughout high school and whatnot, yeah, it was traveling Bow Island and then with Legion Ball and in Medicine Hat, and then going down, playing in the Montana State League. Like there's definitely a lot of time on the road.
Mm-hmm. When you think back on those days, particularly, do you have any favorite memories or moments on the field that really stand out to you?
Man, it's crazy. Like a lot of memories that I have are not on field things. And that's what I think a lot of guys, when they finish playing, you remember the times on the bus, you remember the times in the hotel rooms, putting leaners on people's doors and doing some practical jokes. But, my last American Legion at bat, I ended up hitting a home run in extra innings, although the other team scored 2 in the bottom of the inning to beat us. But that is memorable for me. As far as growing up, we won a couple provincial titles in high school, grade 11 and 12. That was pretty special as well.
For sure. How is it that a kid from Etzikom ends up getting the attention of college coaches? Because you don't have the social media sphere you have today. You don't have web streaming, so they can't watch your games. How is it that you managed to get yourself noticed?
Well, it wasn't necessarily getting noticed per se. I had an American Legion coach. His name is Rob McDonnell, still around Medicine Hat. He was coaching in Kansas City at a junior college a couple years previous to coaching me in Legion, and said, "Hey, do I know where I'm going?" I said, "Not yet." And he said, "Well," he still knew one of the coaches down there that was likely going to get the head coaching job there, going between a coaching change. And so I called him up and just went on recommendation. And it was wild because this was probably like 2 weeks before I go down there. His buddy didn't get the head coaching job, so there was a head coaching vacancy. And so the new guy that came in, he said, "I know nothing about you, but we'll honor your scholarship." And yeah, so it was a little bit hairy, a little bit nerve-wracking for sure. But I always said it was, a lot of my career, it was more will than skill. I knew I wasn't the most talented, but I just wanted it. And, with that passion and desire, I think that carried me throughout my career.
Well, and you did pretty well for yourself. We'll get into some of the other highlights in a second. But when you go to Longview and then it's off to Southern Arkansas, I mean, you had some pretty cool college experiences. What did those mean to you when you look back on them?
Yeah, it was neat. Like I said, it's you remember the times with teammates, the living in apartments, the dorms, the travel. Like I always wanted to go south because, I mean, that's where baseball's at. Like if I was going to play hockey, for sure, stay in Canada. But baseball, you want to go south and further south. And, Kansas City was great, but still you'd get ice storms. And, we would have indoor practices. And I thought, man, I want to go further south. And, I did want to play at the highest level. I did want to go D1, but my size limited me. And, so I went Division II and had a very successful career in Arkansas. And then, fortunately caught the Iowa Scout, and the rest is history.
Let's talk about your time with the Mule Riders for a second here. You were inducted into their Hall of Fame a couple of years ago as well. How unreal was that when you get that chance to kind of look back on the collegiate career as a whole and then beyond and just go, okay, I managed to do some cool things, and that was a pretty cool experience.
It was, for me, it wasn't about individual honors or recognition about playing the game. Like the most fun I ever had was winning championships with the boys. And whether it was high school or, the Gulf South championship we won at Southern Arkansas there. And then even in pro ball, like it was, winning the championships. It can be a selfish game at times, but my favorite memories are the championships won. No question about that.
Absolutely. Do you have a specific memory during your college days that really stands out to you? Was it that championship, or what was that really stands out to you?
Yeah, it definitely was. So that was my 2006 there with that Gulf South championship. We weren't really expected to win, and it was wild. We ended up winning on a walk-off air. Ironically, we did that later in the career too, but it was wild. I was at the bottom of the dog pile with one of my teammates because I think I was on deck or something. And I just remember myself and that teammate, when everyone was piling on top of us, we were both screaming that for people to get off because it hurt so bad. Like we didn't have the fun part of the dog pile because we were in the bottom. But that was very memorable. And like just to share that now, like every now and then we get a text thread going with some of the guys and just reminisce about that and how special that experience was. And it's pretty neat to look back on.
Mm-hmm. Walk me through how you managed to get the attention of the San Francisco Giants.
So I played summer ball, I guess American Legion ball, and then I spent 1 year with the Medicine Hat Mavericks.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, you know what, I got to go south. So I played a year in Edenton, North Carolina, nothing there. Another year in the Texas Collegiate League. And I didn't hit that good that year. It was a wood bat league in the summer. But I ended up stealing a lot of bases, getting on base a lot. And there was a scout that had seen me play. His name was Tiny Thomas. Well, that was it's Todd Thomas, but Tiny was his name.
Mm-hmm.
Little guy like myself. I'm sure I reminded of him of me of him or whatever. And so I finished my last year at Southern Arkansas, and I was looking to get an opportunity at least, and was wondering if there's any tryouts or workouts, and I ended up going to a Mets one. I thought that went pretty well with the Mets, and then I talked to my university coach and I said, hey, like I know there's this guy that saw me in the summer. Can you give him a call? And so he did. And then I ended up working out. I was visiting my girlfriend, who I ended up getting married to. Her hometown is about an hour east of Dallas. And I told the scout I was going to be there. And he said, yep, I'll come out. I'll work you out there. Do you have a field to work out on? And so I had to talk to the high school coach at the time. It was in the summer, so the grass was long. He said, yeah, whatever. Yeah, go for it. So the scout, Tiny Thomas, he throws me batting practice. He's rolling me ground balls because the grass is too long to hit him from home plate. So he's rolling me balls, hitting me balls, feeding me double plays as my wife, girlfriend at the time, was videoing me throwing the ball to a screen at these bases. And then he said, well, I'd have you run the 60, but the grass is too long. And what do you run, a 6'4", 6'5"? I said, yep, sounds good. And so he said, all right, I'll be in touch. That was about 4 days later. He calls back and asked if I wanted to be a Giant. And I said yes.
Of course. I mean, and not only did you get that cup of coffee, but here you are putting together a 9-year career in that system. When you look back on that, does it feel as improbable as it might look from the outside, given things that you had to overcome just to get to that point?
It's funny because I've, as I'm getting old here, I kind of reminisce. And my boys, I have 2 boys, 8 and 10, and they're kind of starting to ask them questions. And, you look back on it, it's like, well, it was just my life. I didn't think at the time that it was anything special. It was just what I was going through. And, but it wasn't until later on in my professional career, probably the last 3-4 years, where I was like, you know what, I'm really going to try to enjoy this, like enjoy the ride, enjoy the relationships. And to really soak it in. Like the first few years, I was really grinding and it's selfishly, you're trying to do as best you can, obviously, but to work your way up. And then once I kind of realized, I'm not really here as a prospect. Like I'm here as a roster filler that can, plug holes, play different positions and have a leadership role. And so I embraced that and I really tried to make the most of that.
Mm-hmm. Looking back on that 9-year stretch, do you have any, I'll call them pinch me moments, but times where you just kind of had to take that step back and go, all right, this is pretty cool that I get to do this thing?
Yeah, there's, a few times. Like the Giants had won 3 World Series in 2010, 12, and 14. And at the higher levels, obviously when a big league guy gets hurt, he'll come down and rehab in the minor leagues a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so I got to be, share the same field as Hunter Pence and Jake Peavy and Sandoval and like some of these guys after they've had a few years in the big leagues. And it was pretty neat. Like walking before the game and they would sign an autograph and some kid would be like, hey, Skyler, do you want to sign this ball? And it would already have Hunter Pence's autograph on there. I was like, are you sure you want me to sign this? Like, oh, absolutely. I'm like this little kid doesn't know the difference between an established big league vet and me. I'll sign for him all day. But it was pretty neat looking back. Like some of the guys I got to play with, and especially, like the Posies and Bumgarners working up through the minor leagues, like before they were established big leaguers, like that. That was pretty neat looking back on.
Did I read a story that you were doing pretty well at cards with Buster Posey, perhaps?
Yeah, it's one of my stories I like to tell for sure. But so in single A ball, we were in San Jose. Before the games, we would, there's a lot of downtime. And so we'd play some cards and at the single A level and below, you have to do a lot on your own. The clubhouse guys that, do your laundry and feed you and whatnot, they don't really clean your shoes before the game. So what we would do, we would play a card game, and the loser of the card game would have to shine the other guy's cleats. So as I've told the story before, there were times where he'd beat me and I'd shine his shoes, but there were times where I would definitely beat him. And Buster Posey in the minor leagues before he was Rookie of the Year and MVP and 4-time World Series champion, he was shining my cleats before the game. Like, it was, looking back, that's maybe my pinch me moment. That's the one, that I like to tell people for sure.
For sure. On the field, what's it like facing Randy Johnson?
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess you've heard that story. That's somewhere out there, but yeah, I hit a sac fly in a spring training game against him. Like, I think it was his last year playing, probably, I don't even know what year it was, but I mean, he was just going through the motions. He wasn't throwing mid upper 90s, but the guy before me hit a triple off the top of the wall, and I come up and I think I'm in pretty good shape, and he throws a slider in the dirt and I swing at, another slider in the dirt that I swing at. And then I somehow flicked one out to left field to the weakest arm in the outfield. And and the guy from third scored my sac fly. And as I was running past the mound, I could hear Randy say some, not so nice words under his breath, that he was mad at himself more than mad at me, but it was just really funny. I wanted to apologize. I was walking past him almost.
Is that one of those situations? I mean, he's a daunting character, right? Like, you're 6'10", you're gonna stand out, right? And that, the way that he let go of that baseball, is there that moment where you're kind of feeling like John Kruk to a certain extent, where you're like, oh man, if this thing flies over my head, or a guy like Larry Walker, I might just poop my pants, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's funny when you, like, I really tried to live in the moment and not, regardless of what it was, to not like get too overwhelmed and realize like they're just normal people. And it's weird to say that, like, before you get there, they're like, oh man, Randy Johnson is like, he's just a pitcher. And, I'm on the same field as him. We're the same level. And I got him that day, I guess. But like, a lot of times, they are way better. They're more talented. They have, God gave them more ability, but, on that day, things lined up and I got to face them and, put the bat in the ball.
Mm-hmm. When you look back on it, were there any other guys who really stood out to you where you had to take that step back and go, oh, hey, he's a dude. He's going to go to the show in the not too distant future here?
Well, yeah, growing, the Bumgarner and Posey, Crawford, Brandon Belt, like, you could tell those guys were different. Just the way they carried themselves and the talent level. Like, they were definitely special. Like, I played against Bryce Harper. Mm-hmm. Like, there was a lot of hype on him. Like, you knew he was going to be good. And it was funny. I looked back in the with my national team experience, and I remember I felt like right-handed. As a right-handed hitter, I could carry myself okay. Like, I could hit okay. I never felt like I was too overmatched. Well, then it was the gold medal game we faced USA, and I remember, like, I can't hit this guy. Like, he's better than me. And I didn't really look at it at the time. It was years later I looked back, and it was Josh Hader, mm-hmm. who might still be pitching with the Brewers. Like, he's had a heck of a career. I'm like, well, no wonder I couldn't hit him. Like,
That's amazing. And speaking of the national team, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that part. Is you had the chance to rep the Maple Leaf, Pan Am Games, World Cup. You won gold medals, you won bronze medals along the way. When you look back on that, what did it mean to you to rep Canada?
Yeah, like, as a kid, the ultimate goal, okay, yeah, you want to play in the big leagues if that's number one. But, like, number 1B is to play for your country. Mm-hmm. Growing up, like a hockey fan too, you watch the Olympics, you see just excitement and passion that the players have and fans have as well. And so I remember I think it was 26, the first year I finally got to wear the Maple Leaf. And it was, we had, you get your equipment bag with your jerseys and hats and just all this random goodies. And my wife was with me, and I said, video this. Like, I was like a 10-year-old kid going through my bag, looking at all this stuff. Like, it was so cool just to finally, it's like, man, like, I finally made it. And then, to have the success we did, we won the bronze of the World Cup, and then we ended up beating the U.S. for gold in 2011. And then I ended up got to play in the, the national team for a few more years as well. And, obviously winning another gold in 2015 in Toronto. Like, it was so cool to be a part of the national team because, like I said, there was no selfishness at all in that team. And it was so refreshing that you could go 0 for 4 turn a double play, make a couple plays, and you win the game, and that's all that mattered. And that was so fun to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you probably watch World Baseball Classic now and go, yeah, there's a reason this thing is legit now, right? Is because of sort of that, not even animosity, but the fact that it is about something other than the 162 that you play during the season. Like, it's for something a little bit different. So you probably get a little bit of like, yeah, I've seen that before. I got the feels for it kind of thing.
Yeah, when you get to put on your nation's colors, like there's something about that. You're not just playing for the 25 guys with you, you're playing for your country, and that is so neat to experience. And you could definitely feel that, as a fan, even watching this year, like what it means to the players and how you get behind them and just how the whole country, like it, just the passion and flair. And man, I enjoy watching on TV, and it was even more fun to be a part of it as a player.
Mm-hmm. Looking back on the whole career, what are you most proud of?
Oh, it's probably the stick-to-itiveness. I mean, I was underskilled, undersized, disrespected at times, but to just keep grinding. I mean, as growing up on the farm and now working on the farm, it's the everyday grind. There's things you don't like to do. There's things that you have to do. And, you got to wake up and you got to do things, and you got to keep doing it, keep stacking days together and months and years. And then you look back, you're like, man, that was a lot of hard work and it was a grind. But at the end of the day, you feel proud of what you've done because you stuck with it. You did it when a lot of the other people would have quit or, would have said, yeah, like this is too tough, or I'm not spending time with family, or missing out on this and that. It's just, I didn't want to have any regrets. And so I gave it all every single day, with, a good attitude, and just tried to enjoy every day like it was my last, and play like every day was my last. And, looking back, I'm proud of the way I did that.
Mm-hmm. And now you get to kind of bring up that next gen. And you mentioned the family piece. I mean, you're back on the farm. Are you pushing the kids towards a little baseball? You letting them do their thing? And are they starting to ask maybe a few questions about your baseball life?
Yeah. So I have two boys. One's 10 and one's 8. And so, yeah, like I'm president of the, local foremost minor association. And so I've coached both of their teams, and, get to throw batting practice and teach. It's so funny because a lot of things, there's a lot of mental side of the game that never gets taught. And that's, sure, there's fundamentals. They'll get you certain ways, but then there's like little mental tidbits that I love sharing with the kids. And I'm like, if you can do this, if you just cover this space, and if you're thinking ahead here, we're going to win games. And it's been pretty cool, like to see some of these young guys here that, not just my son, but, his teammates, that things are clicking. And it's like, when you do things the right way and you can, and you're winning, it's kind of fun to see these kids develop and improve their skills. And as far as like, you said, am I push them to baseball? I'm there coaching them in baseball, but they both play hockey. They both play mini basketball. I mean, I asked my 10-year-old the other day, I said, what's your favorite sport? And he said, it's whatever I'm playing. And that's what I like to hear. Like, I want to raise multi-sport athletes, because if you're a better athlete, you'll end up being better in your sport when it comes down to picking it.
Absolutely. When you look at the baseball scene now as compared to a couple of decades ago, what do you see? How cool is it to see sort of the growth, the maturation, all that kind of thing about what the scene is bringing to life now? You've got guys in MLB now. You got guys that are doing some pretty cool things across the board now.
Yeah, it is. Like with, social media and, just the coverage you get. Like, I feel like you're getting to know the players so well. And I think like the Blue Jays doing well, making a big, deep run in the playoffs, like that is so good for the game. It develops that next, age, or that next era of baseball fans. Like, I grew up listening to the Blue Jays in the tractor,
mm-hmm.
and, you see them on TV, and we can see them late in the year in the postseason. Like, just the excitement. Like it is a different game. Guys are throwing harder now. There's more, metrics and stats on spin rates and exit velocity and all these little things. But at the end of the day, it's still about, squaring up the ball, making a routine play, throwing strikes, playing defense. Like it's the same game. It's just a little bit different way it's approached now.
For sure. A couple more for you before we let you go. Kind of bringing it back to the coach in you here, but with the benefit of 2020 hindsight, you're able to impart some wisdom on those young kids who are just starting out on their journey and they want to follow in your footsteps. They want to go pro. They want to go to the big leagues. What's that one piece of advice or those words of wisdom that you want to impart upon them?
Man, it's you gotta love it. You gotta have fun doing it, and if you can make practices fun, make learning fun, the kid's gonna want to play it later on in life. And I mean, a lot of these kids, let's be real, basically all of them are not going to be professional in any sport. But if you can teach them, that hard work, if you work hard, if you do the right things, success is going to be a byproduct of that. I think that's the biggest thing I'm trying to teach the kids. Like, if we do this the right way, maybe the wins aren't coming right now, but the wins in life are going to come later on. Like, when the things are tough, you don't want to do it. It's nasty weather outside. It's like, hey, the other team doesn't want to be here. I know it's tough, but let's grind through this. Let's do our best. And then, just giving them some grit and that, hard work and a good attitude. And that's what's going to give them success in life for sure.
Absolutely. And the final one, it's one we ask everybody here on the show, Skyler. What does the game of baseball mean to you?
And it's gave me opportunities that I could have never even imagined. Traveling the world, obviously going down south, met my wife there. Who knows where my life would have been or what it would have been doing. I definitely wouldn't have got to experience, the worldwide of game of baseball had it not been planted. I mean, it was quite the ride. I'm thankful for all of it. Even the good things and the bad things too. You still learn from them and they create you into the person you become today.
Well, it's been fantastic getting to hear about your journey, Skyler. Again, really appreciate you taking the time to talk about it all. Congrats on all the success, both on and off the field. And again, thanks so much for joining us here on the show.
Yeah, thanks again for having me.
Thanks again to Skyler Stromsmoe for joining us this time around, and thanks to all of you for downloading and listening. If you like this or any other episode, make sure to leave us a rating and review. Subscribe as well, as we have a bunch of new episodes planned in the coming days, including one later on this week with legendary baseball coach Dave Robb of the Okotoks Dogs. A tip of the cap, as always, to our Platinum supporters, those same Okotoks Dogs, as well as Under the Light Sports and Entertainment and the Western Canadian Baseball League, for their generosity in helping us tell the game stories in our province. Their support helps us cover costs like travel and web hosting fees. For more on our tremendous teammates, head to albertadugoutstories.com/supporters. Until next time, thank you for all of your support, online, on social, and on air, of Alberta Dugout Stories.